Right, I hope this is loud enough. It's close enough. Uh, Careful what bits of me I get in. No dowsing today. It wasn't possible after talking to the spirits. So this is about my final ceremony for a long time, Aya 102, in the second week of the Dieta, which I didn't complete for many reasons, because there was no tambo and stuff like that. That's mainly what it was about. Not you can't do it under that environment with the kid, with a baby screaming and loads of people around you, and it's just not, you can't do it. So I had these conversations with the spirits, but 102 was wonderful to end with. It was the most beautiful ceremony. It was absolutely wonderful. It was just me, Maestro, and Darlin, Maestro's eldest son, and he's a lovely guy. Such a hard worker. I love him. One just such a helpful fella. He's the father of the baby. Um, so a lot happened. A lot of different spirits spoken to. So starting with who? Well, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the first weird thing was having a conversation with both sides of Mama Ayahuasca, who were fighting each other. Her dark side and her light side were fighting each other. I could see like these two intertwined black and white sort of forms, like just locked together. So I asked to talk to Mama and wasn't getting through, and then had this vision of them and realised it was her arguing with herself, so and I knew that it was her dark side. And Mama started talking to me. She said, "Yeah, I'm having an argument with my dark side about access to you, um, trying to, claim access to you as well." I said, "Can I help in any way?" And she said, "Yeah, you can explain for yourself." So I spoke to Mama's dark side while they were arguing and said, after getting a bit of information from Peter Gorman's book and the way that he described for him, I said, "I'm Stephen Edwards. I am the wielder of the sword of absolute truth, and I am not to be bargained with by the dark side. I am not available for the dark side, so you can forget trying to access me or pull me in your direction." Something like that, along those lines. And then that was sufficient. And then I got normal access to loving Mama Ayahuasca. So that was nice. So thanks to Peter Gorman for that. And then later in the ceremony, um, Maestro called Peter Gorman anyway. And I knew that he was going to do that before, because I'd said to him, because I was explaining lots about the book to Maestro, because although he's in it, because obviously it's all about Papa Julio and his family, Antenor, Jairo, all the people from Antenor's relatives retreat that I've met, so many of them, and they're all in the book. So it was lovely because even before Maestro he'd sung the Icaro to call him. He'd already called Papa Julio and then summoned the Icaro for Peter. He's just added the name for Peter Gorman to come. But before he even finished that, Peter Gorman was talking to me. "Hi Steve, how you doing? Nice to meet you." So I had a really good chat with Peter Gorman, which was great, and he was lovely. So I really recommend reading Ayahuasca in My Blood by Peter Gorman. It really helped me a lot, especially gave me something to do for the last 3 days. I got through it in 3 afternoons. It's a really easy read, but really fascinating because he was so accomplished naturally. He was another Papa Julio as a Westerner, really. I mean, and the ayahuasca was different. I was talking to Maestro Antenor about this. We had a discussion that the ayahuasca 50, 40 years ago was much stronger, much more selective about who it allowed to use it and how. Antenor said that about his father when Antenor was a young kid, and they weren't allowed to go near ayahuasca when it was being made. They were told to get away if they came over to the fire. Stay away, sort of 50 meters away by the house or wherever he was, far away he was making it. Only he was there with the ayahuasca, making it for 8 hours a day, putting his intentions, his icaros, and energy into the drink with no other people around. And if you read about Peter Gorman's visions and what he managed to achieve on ayahuasca compared to sort of what we get today, and Maestro Antenor, agrees that the ayahuasca just isn't as strong. I said it's probably to do with a lot of reasons like geoengineering, a lot of chemicals coming down from the sky, less spirituality in all of the native tribes as they're sucked into Western living. Um, and this turned out to be correct because the most amazing thing that happened in that ceremony, um, for a long time, I've had this feeling on my hand like a piece of wood, like a gauntlet, part of a gauntlet in my hand, here on my wrist and strapped to the other side. And it's tangible. It feels like something strapped to my hand. If I touch, obviously, I can't feel it with this finger. It's not real on this, but my hand can feel it. And it's like having a wrist around here with these bits of wood or something hard, secure, and in the palm of my hand, one hand only. Really bizarre. I've had it for a long time and just on and off. I never knew what it was. And then in the middle of just out of nowhere, a voice appeared and started talking to me, really friendly. Hi, Steve. How are you? It's okay. Hello, and how are you? No, do you mind telling me who I'm talking to? And said, we're the collective spirit of the whole of the Amazon rainforest. It's like, wow. So it was wonderful. So I had a really good conversation, and then I asked. It dawned on me to ask about this thing because I could feel it at the time in the conversation. I said, is this feeling in my hand anything to do with it? He said, yeah. He said, that's been us all along. He said, and it's to let you know that you've been protected by us, and you are protected by us, all, uh, and will be for all the time in the future. And that was just incredible, you know. I mean, that's as good as having the spirit of the Andes Mountains talk to me, ages ago when I got the pearl for protection and put it in my moonstone necklace, talking to him that was wrapped up in a bar of gold that I had to open. So it was the same sort of thing. But the whole of all the spirits, and it's a hierarchy. All the spirits that are in the Amazon jungle actually form to make a bigger spirit, and it's the Amazon collective. And I spoke to Maestro about this, and he's had that as well. So he knew about that spirit. He's spoken to the spirit of the Amazon collective as well. So that was wonderful. Um, Obviously, Papa Julio was talking a lot. They were laughing a lot. It was just a beautiful, relaxed ceremony because I was clean after getting that hex fixed. And then Bobin Sana came and she was just as loving as she always was. And she was absolutely wonderful. And, because I was still very burned about my last encounter. But she said that was my dark side. I just think of her as like my evil twin sister. And yes, she was horrible. I said, well, she could have been worse. But I said it, still had that image. Bowen Sana was so lovely, and she said to me that whenever I want to call spiritual protection from all my trees, I only have to call her because all the others are her brothers and sisters in a way, and she'll automatically bring them for protection, provided I say my incantation every day, and then the explanation, which is obvious in retrospect, why shamans have to sing out loud and strongly. The conversion of the spiritual connection coming through your pineal gland, through the language centers in your brain, etc., to become manifest in this real world, they have to be spoken. That's the magic of speech and song. It materializes the spiritual energy in this dimension. That's what casting spells is, which is why witches just read spell books and say the spells out loud, talking to a Ouija board, all of that stuff. It's the same thing for the dark side or for any level of or what type of magic people are dealing with. And I've learned from reading Peter's book, there's black magic, red magic, green magic, and white magic. And they all have their uses for healing, or particularly dark for malice, depending on the type of person who's using it or what their intentions are. So to have that explanation and just realize that that's what you need to do once you've had enough training and connection through the plants. And this Mama Ayahuasca explained to me, she said, we didn't tell you this early, Steve. I know it's obvious to you now, but we didn't tell you this because earlier to actually explicitly explain that you need to say your Icaros or your incantations for protection or other things, healing or whatever, out loud, because you were still not in a state ready, and some of the forces tugging on you in the dark direction. You may have been resentful and then started to use it in a negative way for selfish reasons. But you're beyond that now. You're so much more balanced and calm and in control after this last dieta, because it was hell going through what I went through, putting up with crying baby and a noisy 4 year old bouncing around for a few days, and the baby for 2 weeks, and loads of people around. And when I was open on my trees and then on Uña de Gato, which was my last week, and she was spoke to her too. She was wonderful. Maestro said she's called Uña de Gato, cat's claw, because her dark side has the claws. That was really interesting. So that was nice. But she was a lovely spirit. And directly responsible, I think, for being, because I just wanted general health. I didn't want to do any more trees because, as far as I was concerned, the journey was over. So there was no point. I thought I'm just going to use this last 2 weeks of the dieta, but I only did the last week anyway because Maestro had to go to work today, and I didn't want to burden him with me being in the jungle looked after. But not that it would have been a problem, but I just thought we'd just better, might as well end it, and then he can go away, concentrate on his work, and come back, and then they can carry on in the jungle themselves, building the tambo for their own retreat and their own desires in the future, or until I come back, because it's not the end of the journey. Bob Insana and the other spirit said it's not the end, Steve, but you do need to go away. We've got work for you in Costa Rica. You need to meet some people, and in that state, you don't question it. When you get back in the real world, you're always, oh, well, because they led me on about, I asked about dowsing as well, why I've never been able to dowse. And Bobin Sana was just leading. And, oh, well, maybe you'll be in for a surprise when you get back to Iquitos and try it, But I have, and it still can't do it. Really frustrating, because that would be so handy to just be able to use dowsing rods, ask a question, is my protection in place? Are my trees in place? And get a yes. And of course, you can heal people with it as well by asking direct questions when you're straight. You can ask questions about their health if you're allowed to by the spirit world, but still not allowed to. It's just not, doesn't seem to be a gift I'm ever going to be given, and that's a real blow. That was a big down this morning, because I was really hoping that would be such an incredible surprise and such a boost to yourself. But anyway, it's not happened, and so I've got to carry on. And so I booked my flight to Costa Rica this morning. So I'm leaving on Wednesday. It's Sunday today. So I'm leaving on Wednesday. I'll be in Costa Rica late afternoon. And just looking at a few videos, it looks beautiful. San Jose, the city. There's a nice market there. It looks like great food. I know it's a bit pricey, but just go there and look for work to start. Get my CV and everything sorted out and start applying for jobs. Try and get a period of work behind me just to make me feel good about myself, whatever it is, just whatever I can get, while I've got money to support me as well. Um, and then the future's open. I don't know when I'll be coming back, but I will be coming back. And when I felt so great in the morning, and I knew that night, it was a wonderful night. Bob and Sana was with me all night, just lying on the bed. I had my dog, Carla, with me, lying there too. And it was just beautiful ceremony. Everyone was so peaceful. There was no witch attacks. Just that feeling that it was a relaxed evening, really calm. So much protection in place. Papa Julio and Peter Gorman had come down anyway. We had a really early ceremony at 6:30. Just we were literally waiting as it got dark, and Maestro just started getting the cups ready, or the cup, and pouring the ayahuasca. And then by the time we drank it all, it was as dark as it was going to be, with a bright moon, half moon. No, more than 3/4 of moon, more than 3/4. So it was a quite bright night through the clouds. Um, wasn't It was a bit of Marition. It was, if you sat up and it was like, ooh, but it was pleasant. Not no big sort of fractal stuff at the start like the previous one that was really strong. Um, it was just a beautiful thing. And Maestro, I wish I didn't record that one, but I wish I had now, because I was thinking about just saving battery on my phone, stupid reason. I would have had enough. Anyway, but because he sang me a personal thank you, Icaro. He gave me a big hug at the end of the ceremony. He said, "Oh, the medicine is telling me to give you a hug." So I stood up and gave him a big hug because he'd sung this lovely Icaro to me, and I was lying there with Bob and Silence just listening to him. And he said, "Thank you for having trust and faith in me." Um, when I spoke about the collective, he said, "The jungle, La Selva, is now your family as well." So that was just wonderful space to be in. It was an absolutely incredible, beautiful ceremony, and it just makes up for all of this the things that. And they're always corrupted by bad energy of some form. There's always either somebody around the ceremony or in the ceremony, or a little bit in yourself before you start has collected some bad energy from somewhere, and that manifests sometimes strongly in the effects in the ceremony, which is why they can be unpleasant. And this is what had happened in the first in ceremony 100 and the first one ceremony 100, was it 100? No, it was 101 with Hyro and his girlfriend, wife, whatever, because she had a witch on board. And that ceremony was horrible, and that was all to do with putting the doubts in my mind. I just done. I'm done now. I'm finished. And Mama, I'm getting the dark side of ayahuasca, but she sounded very much like the light side, but just a bit harsh and realistic, saying, "No, you're you're never going to be a shaman, Steve. You were brought here for this last dieta to realize that you're never going to be a shaman. It's not your path, and that you can forget about it now and move on with a life of your own, and not think about ever having it as an option, because it was unrealistic, and it is in real terms as far as the amount of time and my age and stuff. But it doesn't mean I can't just keep becoming better. It doesn't mean I'm going to be a shaman. And I never set out to be a shaman. I've said this all along, and it's fine. Um, I don't have any expectations with that about that. But I know I'll miss the medicine, and I do miss the jungle. When it's beautiful, it is the most beautiful place. When you get days where there's no mosquitoes, no flies, and the peace, and just the sounds, just the quiet sounds, the stillness of the jungle, and then the night when it's just the sounds of the jungle. It's just so relaxing to sleep in the jungle. It's wonderful. So that was Cat's Claw Bone Sana. My dog Carla's having a chat with her. She's funny. She's very, very dry sense of humour, my dog. Um, Probably from being around Bob for so long and me when I was young, 40 years ago. And then speaking to Peter Gorman and Cat's Claw, Uña de Gato, um, Jungle Collective. So loads of really wonderful spirits. Uña de Gato. Oh yeah, and I had surgery by the Lapuna tree, which was incredible because one of the questions, in my intention, I thought, no, I have quite a few questions I want to put in my intention tonight. So I was thinking about wanting to go and fly, to go and actually visit some members of my family and see them. If I could do what Peter Gorman could do by asking one of the spirits, like Boa Negra, to travel with them. But then when I knew Peter Gorman was coming, I thought I don't. It's too much and probably too advanced. I've got other stuff that I really need ironing out. I need to know about my Icaros. I want to try the Icaros, speaking them out loud, just my incantations, speaking them out loud for me for personal protection. And Bobin Sana was lovely. She said to me, she said, "Steve, you don't have to call all the trees." She said, "I'll call them for you. If you just call me, I'll bring the rest. When you say your incantation in the morning every day before you go out, so that you've got your protection, and then you say for the protection incantation that Darlin gave me, or a variation of it, for the Arcana protection, to make me protected as possible." So that was really nice, because I did want to go and my older sister had been on my mind a couple of days, and I'm wondering whether she's ill. And despite all of the nastiness and problems in that situation, it's up to me because of who I am and who I've become. And like Boban Sana said, she wouldn't say absolutely if my sister was ill, but she said, "But you should call her anyway." She said, "Because it would be really good for you, because if they're offy or don't, curt or with you, then that's their problem. But if you make the effort, then it's going to be really good for you." And if she is ill, she will probably really want to be happy to talk to you. Because Janet's 71 this year. No, I'm 61, so she's 70. Christ, she's 70. No, Terry's 74. So she's 72. Shit. She's 72 this year. And I keep having an image of her with long white hair, like an older woman. Probably turned grey, I don't know. But she was on my mind for a couple of days. I'm thinking, I wonder if she's sick. Because she always was sick, very sick anyway. A lot of problems, thyroid and whatnot. And so I have got that phone call to make in the next couple of days. Not really looking forward to it, but I'm going to. I want it out the way before, because then I can just forget about it. And then with on my journey to Costa Rica, I can just forget it because that will preoccupy me then, and I'll have other things to think about. So probably maybe tomorrow or the next day, I've got to try and get the number again and make that phone call. But I did have the idea about asking the spirits if I could travel with one of the spirits, like Boa Negra, because I've called him before. Uh, when I sang on the way back after a ceremony, I did sing that. And I did have a vision of the snake coming to me, and he said he was going to protect me, and he wrapped himself around my tambo. But he wasn't well, anyway, he was really big and kind of went his head out the roof. But and that was after the ceremony. I was still quite high on the ayahuasca and very much connected. Um, So it was just a wonderful ceremony to overall to have as my last one for a very long time, probably, because my visa goes from August to August. So once I leave, I'll have to pay about a month overstay at $1.50 a day or whatever it is. Um, so it's going to cost me 30, I don't know, $50 or whatever it is. 30 days at $1.50, so that'll be 50, say $50 on the way out. And I don't want to piss off the immigration too much, which I would have done if I'd stayed for 6 months, and they probably might have really, never allowed me in again or something like that. So the future's very open, but I think it's a long time in the future. It'll be way past August, or depending if I can get work, then I'll just have to stick it out because I need to have a taste of independence in and settled for a while. Like that partly really got to me on the dietas because I just this sense of floating all the time was it was a huge burden on me in being open on the dietas with that looming over me like a dark cloud. It was really apparent. So Mama was right about that, where I need to concentrate on getting work and a career and experience behind me again because I'm so far out of it with whatever I can and just do it. Um, and if the money's not great, while I've got money to support myself, then I've got to do it. Whatever it is, even if it's a crappy paid shit school TEFL job for a while to gain experience and slowly climb the ladder with what qualifications I have, if I can even get a job at my age, don't know. It's going to be difficult, but the first part, it should be nice just to enjoy Costa Rica and have a look about. What a couple of videos I've seen so far, it looks really nice. It's supposed to be very safe, generally very safe, depending where you go, like most places, but very safe overall. A lot of people speak English there. And of course, I really want to continue my Spanish. That's been a lot of work over the last 4 years that I certainly never throw away. I'm still not very good at it, but um, just keep chipping away at it like everything else. And I haven't got that same apathy that's always been like a bad energy. Well, which brings me back to the Lupuna. All of a sudden, I could feel a presence of like a whitish, not because the visions weren't really strong, but the audio connections were fine, perfectly good, and very slight visions of like this form kind of inside me, and then he started to speak to me, and I knew it was one of my trees, but I didn't know which one. So I asked. I said, "Oh, do you mind me asking which tree I'm talking to, please, spirit?" He said, "It's Lupuna. I'm Lupuna." He said, "I'm doing a little bit of surgery in your stomach because Uña de Gato." The reason I took it was I'd said about whenever I have ayahuasca, nearly all the time I get pains in my stomach. And after 3.5 years, I said to my student, "That's not normal, is it?" He said, "No." So that's when I'd also said I didn't want any more trees. I want to try and get as much health in my skin and my internals or whatever's necessary to get my physical body as healthy as possible to be able to go away again without having worsening conditions that bring you down and just get you despondent. So we decided on he decided on cat's claw, but we didn't get round to doing the Pignon Blanco. It was just cat's claw at first, and then it was I told him that no, I'm going to finish, and then he said he had to go on Saturday, not the Monday. So I didn't have time to continue a few more days with both Unidad Gato and Pignon Blanco. And that really suited me as well because it cut it 2 days short, and I was already really itchy feet, and that cheered me up because the baby had come back with his mother to cook. She was only there one day, and it drove me up the wall. I said to Maestro the next day, the day of the ceremony on Friday, I said, Maestro, because they would had to go back to town to get a bigger boat to pack up for Saturday. So we discussed it and said, no, well, in that case, I'll come with you because there's no point you being here. And that morning, just the baby in the morning, I said, Maestro, I can't have a baby here with Leela. I said, I need peace. I said, she can go back to Anara Herrera. And they didn't need to cook. They weren't working. So Maestro, he only had, two meals to cook, one for him, one for me. And the boys had caught fish anyway. When you need boiling in a pot, you don't need a woman to do that. They're not. It's not like they're working all day and they need food cooked for them. And I can cook my own anyway, so certainly. So, and it turned out when I spoke to Leela yesterday, the baby had a fever from the jungle. So I just said, oh, it's just as well that you came back then that day. That I'd said because I was worried that she was a bit put out or took it personally, but because she wouldn't understand dietas and the energies involved, um, how how sensitive you can be. And it's not everybody. And of course, the boys and Maestro are clean. They've done a lot of ayahuasca, but she's done none. She'll have bad energy on board. Baby as well. Baby's, although he's a very, very good baby generally, he's starting to get just to the babble stage and he's loud and he's lovely. But I just can't. After 2 weeks of it, I couldn't put up with any more. And having 2 days where without them, the peace was just unbelievable. And then to have them come back and start it again, it was even worse. I even had to tell Roberto because they were all sitting around on the other near the bedroom on the other planks that they put, and he was making that remo paddle, just chopping away, and it was banging on the boards. I was trying to read the book, and it was starting to really fucking irritate me. And Mama had said to me when she was dark, she said, "You've got to start asserting yourself more to tell people, when they're being let them know because it's your problem because the Peruvians don't have that issue. Things don't bother them. I wish I knew. She didn't have to tell me that. She didn't tell me that, but." So when he kept chopping and they're having conversation, but he's chop and it's banging on the wall, I said, Roberto, por favor, amigo, I need peace. I want to finish. I want to finish this book in 2 days. And so after that, and then he started just chipping away a bit. And then I looked across at him and he looked at me. And I was just there even then for him because he's normally a lovely lad too. But I just thought, I've asked you once. I don't expect fucking disrespect from Maestro's sons because his whole family are so well behaved. So that and I was at getting to the point of boiling point after the culmination of 2 weeks of putting up with all the noise, and obviously feeling resentful that I'm on a dieta, paying for it, and then without a tambo and having to put it. But it was a trial. There's always a reason to the plants when you look back in retrospect. And it's to help get over that irritations that I'm so sensitive to, listening to someone else's fucking phone on a bus because they're disrespectful. They've got loudspeakers. Put your fucking headphones in, you selfish fuck. No one else wants to hear your phone call. But it doesn't bother Peruvians. They grow up in houses full of noise from birth. It's perfectly normal for Latin American countries and other cultures to be surrounded by it. And even in the West, I'm always been a bit of a loner and don't want to hear this shit, and I just find it highly disrespectful. I said that in a video when I was in Vietnam on a bus somewhere, and then ironically the guy who heard me did speak English, and then he actually helped me afterwards trying to get a taxi. I felt like a right twat, but anyway, but this, so I had to get that off my chest, and so Leela went back, and I did have a beautiful day leading right. It was just me, Maestro, and Darling for the rest of the day. Maestro rested in the hammock. Darling went off fishing for the day. It was just so peaceful. I'm so glad I said what I said. and it just made the ceremony beautiful. Because otherwise, I'd have been wound up to fuck all day. The ceremony wouldn't have been the same. So Click Champ's only got a 30-minute timer on it before you have to make another video and stitch them together. So that's why that dropped out funny there. Um, so yeah, I was saying that about the baby. I'm glad that I got that off my chest and had a wonderful ceremony that night. So there isn't really much more to say because it was just such a beautiful feeling, just so relaxed. It was wonderful. And then once the ceremony was over, I was just breathing, just feeling so just full of spiritual energy after all the spirits talking to me. Just smoking mapacho and breathing it in, and then just to retain that Maricion and having Bob Sana there, just with me all the time, talking and just so loving. It was a wonderful ceremony. And then once it was finished, Maestro was tired and didn't stay around too long. Darling stayed in the hammock in my room until he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go out, put the nets out. Caught some really big fish the next day though, much bigger than usual, about this big, and a piranha in there as well. But I did take a photo. I was going to stitch it in, but well, I deleted it yesterday. Um, yeah, his alarm went off. I'd just woken up for a pee, and then his alarm went off. And it was 3:30. I thought, what the fuck? Why does he set his alarm at 3:30? And then he got up and went out on the boat, paddle boat, and put the nets out. It's like, fuck, he's such a hard worker, that guy. And he was really tired already. Had the ceremony, barely an hour's sleep, probably, maybe 2 hours sleep. Because, yeah, we finished early. Probably finished at 11. Because we started at 6:30. So we were probably done by 11. Because we had to be up at, Maestro wanted to be up at 6 next day, but we didn't get up till 7:15. And then Roberto, I went for a swim. And that was the other great thing about that. That was one good thing. That was one benefit, was having the water so deep and so close. I could swim a good 20, more than 20 meters out to a tree and back every day for the last 2 weeks. So that made me feel a hell of a lot better, being able to swim every day and then do my stretches. And the mosquitoes weren't bad either. With the weather changing, as now it's autumn, coming into winter here, it will start to get drier. And as they cleared the land, so there weren't. You could walk around. I actually walked around a couple of times. I got a few bites if I went out without a shirt or just shorts on. You get the odd bite, but it wasn't like, There were clouds around my bed in the jungle, which I didn't get a video of in the end because during that period I was so pissed off. But when I spoke about ants in the other video, they weren't ants. They were huge termites. They were, termites that are three quarters of an inch long, but huge heads with big mandibles. And Darling said, "Oh, if you get a bite off one of those." I mean, although they're very passive animals, I know that, but the nest was massive. There was loads of them right under the bed. And what final afternoon, I thought, well, it's like I'll just go back and make my bed so it's prepped for dark, so I don't have to do it later because I know all those termites are under. And then they crawled up the leg of the bed and were along one of the side planks. They hadn't got in, but they were on the net and everything. So I went back and told Maestro, and that was when I got back. He said, "Look," and that's where we saw the big plume of smoke over the trees, um, near the other retreat where the family lives in the other field by the football field. Huge plume of smoke because the fumes of the gasoline had hit the fucking fireplace in the house. They had 5 gallons of gasoline stored too close, and the fumes had come off in the heat when they had the fire lit for cooking, and it fucking blew the whole of the 5 gallons of gasoline up and just burnt the fucking house down. That's what you just briefly saw as we left. It was just the shit, the fucking burnt timbers of the house that completely destroyed. Because as I walked back, all the guys, I thought they were fucking around. All the boys had jumped. The 2 workers plus the 2 sons had jumped in the boat and at full revs were fucking. I thought they were just having a bit of fun, but they were racing off. And Maestro said, I said to Maestro, I want to talk to you. And he said, "God, look." He said, "Look," and there's a fucking big black plume of smoke. And I told him about the termites. So we walked up there, and obviously that's when I moved back to the kitchen area. We just left it, just grabbed the mattress and took it back down. So that's, because there was only a few of us, slept back there again. So, but the next day they brought Leela back for the cooking. It's like, oh fuck, because I joked with him when he said, "Oh, I'll try and get Rosalita back," and I thought that's what was going to happen. And I did say, I said the baby's not too bad, but but I said, "Oh, no kids or babies, Maestro." But then the boat arrived the next day, and when I looked, it was Leela, and I thought, "Oh, you've got to be joking! Not with the baby again." I just wasn't in the mood that morning. I had to suffer that for another day, and that really fucking wound me up. And I was just simmering. So it was just on the dieta. And then the next morning was the Friday, and uh, woke up in the morning. Baby started screaming straight away as soon as I woke up, and I thought, I've got to put up with this all fucking day. I can't do it. I said to Maestro, when he said, "Oh, boys are going to go back and get the boat, the bigger boat to pack," so we got the boat to pack tomorrow. I said, Maestro, the baby and Leela, they'll have to leave because they're not needed anyway. I said, I can't. I need peace. I can't have them here today. She can go back to Herrera, and it seemed to put a bit of an atmosphere. I don't know whether they were a little bit offended but I didn't care at that point. But then I felt shit afterwards. But I had to do it because I'd have been even more fucked off if I'd have missed that opportunity. Because I knew she didn't wasn't needed. Don't know, you shouldn't because they weren't working. So, but anyway. Um, So there's nothing else really. I spoke to Joe today. He's doing really well at King's College. I'm really happy about that. Ina's still struggling to find work. Don't know whether she'll be able to come out. If she doesn't get a job, she won't be able to. I won't be here now anyway, so because I won't be coming back for a long time, I don't think. Probably, but you never know on this journey. Said that before and ended up back looking after about 9 months. But it was really weird for the Spirit Collective and Boban Simon just say, "Your journey's not over, Steve." I kind of know. Although a couple of days before, I was like, "No, this is." I talked to the dark side of Mama Ayahuasca. I didn't know, and she said, "No, you've it's finished now. You've got to go on and just concentrate for the rest of your life on a career." And that's the way I felt. So maybe she was just mirroring what I already felt, so that it seemed convincing as the dark side, trying to pull you away from the path. But it worked. I was just in that state. But anyway, no point making this too big. Just because there won't be any more now, except for touristy videos from Costa Rica, wherever the fuck, whatever else happens. Bye.